All right, so to get started here, we have Ghosterdriver and Len. Ghosterdriver, no stranger to anybody, having gotten the trifecta of wins before with, I think it was a Maverick Tournament, Duels of Runeterra, and a Jam Fest or something similar, all in the same week. So Ghosterdriver, one heck of a player, and Len, recently, I don't know, he's doing pretty well. We haven't seen him around before in Duels of Runeterra, or at least I haven't, so good to see again some new faces here. So let's see who will be able to move on here, Ghosterdriver or Len. Yep, and it looks like Len has challenged Ghosterdriver. We are about to start the game here in just a moment. Ghoster, I guess, was saying that he was having some internet issues, so I do hope that we don't see any of that in the game, but looks like game one is starting.
Yep, and Len's going to start off with the Twisted Fate Gangplank Swain.
All right, cool. And I don't think, so in the games that we have seen him play this deck, I don't think we've actually seen Gangplank hit the field, have we?
I do not think we have. He's only playing one of it, and it's not a deck with a whole lot of draw power. I believe, for the most part, Salvage has been totally cut from Twisted Fate Swain decks. Okay, no, actually, he has the full 3 salvage. Why do I feel like we never see this card get played?
Oh, all right, there we go. Loading up the game here. So it's actually, so it's going to be against Ghosterdriver's TF Gangplank. So this should be interesting, seeing this sort of keg control type deck and this this Plunder Noxus deck, like you mentioned, go head to head. And all right, we do already see a surrender, so I wonder if that is the red flag there, that there are some internet problems here. So we'll see in a second. That might be the case.
Nope, that's not the case. Len moving up 1-0. I'm calling it. Good job, Len. Doing great, bud. Len crushing it. Made us wait that long, but it turns out they were playing out game one the whole time.
I just read that chat. It said good luck, have fun, and I read that chat as though Ghosterdriver was just like, nah, I'm out. Good luck, have fun. I'm like, I'm out of this. You get a free pass, but no, it's not the case. And yeah, unfortunately, you know, internet's a thing. You know, we've had it unfortunately affect us sometimes, and it feels bad, but we try to work through it here. And looks like Len's being a good sport, working with Ghosterdriver to try to get the best of both worlds and see if we can actually get this game done here. And I hope to God Len gets rid of that overlay.
Yeah, I tried clicking out of that overlay a few times myself after I realized that I had already turned off his overlay, and I'm like, I don't know what more I can do.
Okay. Oh, Jesus. Thank God. I thought he was going to keep up, like, the graveyard and his opponent's deck and everything, and I was going to be like, I mean, it might kind of help us, but it also takes up a lot of screen. Thank you. All right. Thank you in chat. Yes. All right. Len's smile is absolutely, he has been smiling the entire tournament, and I have already given him a shout out for it. Absolutely love to see it. Love to see people having fun, doing what they do best, playing card games.
The crowded mobalytics overlay reminds me of sort of what the bad guys in Ready Player One wanted to do to the video game, where they're like, we can actually use like 80% of the screen for ad space and players won't mind too much.
No, here, newsflash, we mind. Like a lot. So, all right, so we are going to get the same matchup. No shenanigans with the disconnect or anything like that, so it looks like we are off to a good start here. We see the Petty Officer, TF, Dreadway Deckhand, Ravenous Flock, and Death's Hand all in hand for Len. So not a bad hand, but we'll see what Ghosterdriver has to begin. And a warning shot by a Jagged Butcher is followed by a Jagged Butcher is definitely not a bad start.
Yeah, I think I actually want to give a slight advantage to Ghosterdriver in this matchup. You know, the ability to... Basically what it comes down to is Ghosterdriver has more Riptide Rexes than Len in what is a pretty board-centric matchup, but both players also have, you know, more or less the same suite of removal available to them. The Noxian Guillotine in Len's deck actually doesn't get a lot of value, as everything in Ghosterdriver's deck is pretty low to the ground in the health totals. Generally, if you hit something, it's going to die. Captain Farron, kind of that one exception. But I mean, the 12 damage that Farron represents is just a lot faster than a Leviathan even is actually going to deal that damage to you.
Yeah, and the parlay coming out on the keg, I think, you know, you let this one go through. Obviously, the Ravenous Flocks aren't online with nothing damaged or stunned on the field, so it feels a little bit bad to lose that keg. But the keg also gets some more cards out of Ghosterdriver. Ghosterdriver falling behind a little bit here as far as card advantage is concerned, and that might end up hurting him a little bit. He does have the black market merchants to refuel a bit later on, as well as the Yordle Grifter. So we'll see if maybe that's why he's making these decisions. He's got a couple of those in hand.
Ghosterdriver really aggressive so far. I mean, like, has taken control of the board and still managed to push through 5 damage on turn 3.
Yeah, this is not expected of Ghosterdriver to be this aggressive with this deck. But I mean, actually, you know, I'm not as familiar with this deck. We haven't really seen it a lot in day 1 or day 2. There is Captain Farron. There is 3 Riptide. I don't know. It seems like he's playing similar to, I don't know if you remember the Shadow Isles kind of version of this deck where it had the Stalking Shadows.
Sort of like Keg Control?
Yeah, and the Stalking Shadows with the Riptide, I feel like might be a better version of this deck because I loved seeing that deck play.
I mean, it's definitely hard when you're talking about a tournament lineup to fit Shadow Isle really anywhere but Freljord. Yeah. I feel like you're kind of pigeonholing your lineup at that point. I mean, it just does pair so naturally with it. As we had mentioned, a lot of good Shadow Isle Freljord decks. You can't obviously put it elsewhere, but I don't know that... Like, Bilgewater feels like a power region on its own, and so does Shadow Isle. I think you might be overloading on that when you stick them together.
Pop quiz, Boulevard.
Yep.
What's the name of the card on the field?
The Fate Child? Or, oh, the thing on Ghosterdriver?
Don't look it up. Don't you dare look it up.
I'm looking it up.
Don't look it up.
You can't tell me what to do.
It's Star Shepherd. And
yeah, you had to look that up too.
Nope, I didn't, but I wanted to sound cool because I saw Len hover it in the game and I saw the name. So.
Oh, okay. I was about to say, why didn't you have to look it up?
Yeah, no, I definitely would have had to look that up. So I forgot that card even existed. So we'll see what Len decides to do here on turn 4. We do have TF on curve. Not sure that helps him out a whole lot here. He could red card, get rid of the Jagged Butcher, sink some damage into everything else. But I think he might want to get this Dreadway deckhand down first to get a Keg online and possibly be able to just, you know, make a lot of these spells just more impactful with that Keg on board.
It does get a little bit awkward if you are throwing the Keg down, because I feel like you'd have to throw down the Make It Rain pretty immediately. But even then, you're still vulnerable to a Make It Rain out of your opponent, or maybe you just throw down a Death's Hand, but you're not utilizing the Keg at that point. I do like the Twisted Fate to actually clear out the Butcher and give you much better odds on your Make It Rain, as well as this is a pretty good attack turn. You know, you going with the Twisted Fate, there's no risk there. Never mind, we're not going in with the Twisted Fate for...
I don't even know.
I believe literally no reason.
Yeah, because your opponent had 2 mana, which is Make It Rain, but that doesn't do anything. You still have Quick Attack. That was weird.
Yeah.
I think, okay, he just put his hand to his forehead, so I'm going to assume that maybe he recognized that, but...
I had to check to make sure Ghosterdriver isn't playing more Powder, and we were holding back our attack so that we couldn't play a more Powder at the end of the turn.
Wow. You want to talk about a fringe reason to not go in for the attack there. That would have been definitely
I had to make sure. I had to make sure.
So... Now we are looking like we're thinking about the Dreadway deckhand here, and this Gangplank coming online really early here, turn 5. Also, I think maybe this is why Ghosterdriver had the Gangplank really early. I'm not sure where it came from in his hand, but maybe this is why he was as aggressive as he was, because we are already at either 2 or 3 procs of the level up on Gangplank, and an early level Gangplank is going to be really good for Ghosterdriver.
It will get cleaned up by a Ravenous Flock. I would imagine this is where the Flower Child goes, or not. Doesn't really matter. Both of them are at 2 HP. We can even finish off the GP with the Death's Hand, or set it up for a Keg into a Make It Rain. And I think that's what Len is going to want to go for, and we could get another tick on our Make It Rain fail compilations video that we've been working on.
That video is going to be hella long at this point. There's plenty of fails with Make It Rain, so I really... And it's funny. I was just going to say I really hope he doesn't go for it, but I know you always make this comment a lot where it's like, Make It Rain feels like it's the right, like it's 100% the right decision in a lot of spots, but then it's so
If I'm not going for it, why is it in my deck?
Well, yeah, no, yeah, I agree. It's like, why do you even play the card then? But it just still doesn't make it feel any better.
Oh, definitely not. Especially when it has such a large impact on the outcome of a game. The question I have now is, do you use a Ravenous Flock or do you use a Death's Hand to finish off the Gangplank? I would honestly like to think Flock, just because I don't think you're really damaging your opponent's units as often as you're running into 2 HP units. I think the Death's Hand can get more value.
And Star Shepherd down to 2 health. This is looking rough. I'm not sure where... I don't think there's actually ever a way that Star Shepherd gets procced. Nothing can be stolen from Len's deck either. I think that it's just literally a 0-2 that's going to sit and do nothing the entire game. So really a whiff getting Star Shepherd onto the field there on the side of Ghosterdriver. Feels really bad.
Well, so I want to call it a whiff, but I mean, it is going to sit around and potentially soak up a Make It Rain at some point, and that's not nothing.
No, that's a good point. It definitely isn't nothing. It kind of hurts the probability that your Make It Rain hits what it needs to hit. So maybe that'll come in play a little bit later here. We could also see it just be a blocker. I mean, that's probably what Len wants it to be used for, to just suck up an attack. That way it does not affect any of his Make It Rains, which he now has 2 of. So he's definitely going to want to get some good value out of both of these.
And Len is falling into the trap that we've seen a lot of Twisted Fate players fall into. I don't even really want to call it a trap, more so just a
It's
scenario.
a trap!
Where, well, first off, Ghosterdriver missing the allegiance, which is always really funny to me because Ghosterdriver in my mind is synonymous with allegiance. When he did have that sort of Crown Royal back-to-back-to-back victories, he did it with 3 allegiance decks every single time. So to watch him miss the Yordle Grifter here, maybe that's why he hasn't been topping tournaments. He can't get his allegiance effects off.
That's gotta be it. That's the only reason.
Yeah, but as I was saying for Len, there's a really weak mid game in this Twisted Fate Swain deck. Other than Swain, from about turn 4 to turn 8, you're not putting down anything, and certainly nothing of value. Like, it's really just a lot of chip damage into a big Twisted Fate Swain turn. But with how much healing is in the game right now, I think that's why we've seen the Twisted Fate deck start to suffer. Chip damage doesn't mean as much in the early game.
So one of the things I was concerned about early on was all of that aggression. I almost said egression. Like, we need an exit. All that aggression early on.
Internet aggression.
Yeah, right. Ghosterdriver utilized a lot of his resources, and it was just, when you just compare card advantage on both sides of the field, Ghosterdriver is down a couple cards now, and missing that Yordle Grifter was actually pretty big, I think, on the side of Ghosterdriver, especially because anything stolen from Len is likely going to synergize quite well with Ghosterdriver's strategy because it's, a lot of the same cards. So it's just really unfortunate that he missed that, and because of that, it's kind of punishing him for that early aggression, back on turns 1, 2, and 3.
I think Len is actually going to be pretty happy with this pass.
Yeah.
Although you do have to sort of be scared, now you're kind of in a situation where you're like, okay, if my opponent's passing turn 7, they want to just kind of shimmy on into turn 8, which means one of 2 things. Riptide Rex and a warning shot, or Captain Farron. And Captain Farron in this situation would be backbreaking for Len. You are not ending the game anytime soon. Sure, you have the Arachnoid Sentry to stop the... Actually, you don't even have the Arachnoid Sentry to stop the attack because Ghosterdriver doesn't have the attack token on 8, which means he can go for an open attack on 9. And if he does have a Riptide Rex, that's actually going to set up for that.
Yeah, Riptide would be great. Farron... I mean, does Farron basically kind of just end the game?
I think Farron ends the game, yeah, because unless Len top decks Leviathan.
Okay, yeah, Leviathan is a good equal answer to
Riptide.
Captain Farron. Riptide would be nice as well. Captain Farron's only a 1-of, though, in Ghosterdriver's deck, so it's very unlikely that he actually has it, but I do agree that if he's floating mana, there must be an 8-drop. So I'm going to go, probability-wise, it's most likely a Riptide Rex. Riptide Rex for Ghosterdriver, I don't know. It definitely gets him back in this, but it doesn't win it quite like Captain Farron does.
No, and the reason that I think it's Farron is it's a little bit awkward because Ghosterdriver does play so many 1-of removal spells that he could also be sitting on. He's got a 1-of Fervor, a 1-of Zetsand, a couple of Ravenous Flocks. Like, there are and even a 1-of Guillotine. So there are a lot of dead cards that he could be sitting on. So it's kind of hard to tell, does my opponent have a brick hand of all of their removal, or is there an 8-drop that's going to come down next turn and rip my board to shreds?
All right, well, Make It Rain, getting getting rid of the Star Shepherd. That's what really matters here in this game. The Star Shepherd is now off the field, ladies and gentlemen. Len has a much higher probability of winning this game now. I think you just pass. I think you just end the round here, right?
Yeah, mostly because any 8-drop that comes down is going to open attack you next turn. I think if you get the Arachnoid Sentry down, sure, you push that extra 3 damage, but then if a Riptide does come down, you're in an abysmal situation.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think you're worried about pushing more damage at this point. I would probably take the open attack here because...
I feel like you have to.
Yeah, you have to expect a Riptide, the possibility of a Riptide. Like, it's turn 8. Oh, don't do it. Don't do it. He's doing it. So... this tells me he just wants to preserve his life total. Do we really just get back-to-back Star Shepherds? Okay,
yeah, we did.
Calculated.
You're like Oprah Winfrey out here. Everybody gets a Star Shepherd. This does play a little bit around something like if Ghosterdriver was going for Make It Rain into the Riptide, and that was the activator that he needed, because we don't know that he has a warning shot. Then, maybe you are going for a situation where, okay, let me spread out the board. If the Make It Rain hits face, that could be the turning point of this game.
Wow.
But it looks like rather than having a big turn 8 play, Ghosterdriver actually does just have a brick hand.
Wow, that is a huge, huge deal for Len. That is unbelievable, actually, that Ghoster has no way of activating anything right now. And with playing 3 warning shot, 3 Make It Rain, and a parlay, oh my god, and he misses the second Allegiance.
This could be good. This could be good because we've already missed Allegiance once. There's only 6 Noxus cards in the deck. Given that he hasn't played the Noxus card yet, I'm willing to bet it's either Ravenous Flock or Noxian Fervor. But now, with the Yordle Grifter missing Allegiance, that could mean it's Captain Farron on the top.
Okay, but is it... Listen, Boulevard. Is it ever actually good to miss Allegiance? Like,
if it's telling me that I have lethal, yes, but I think he is actually just going to die on the next turn.
Yeah, I think even if he draws the Farron, like, I don't think there's a way he lives through the attack. Yeah,
he has to have like double Ravenous Flock in hand, since he did miss the Allegiance and he didn't play Death's Hand Fervor or Farron. He definitely had at least 1 Flock in hand and just no situation to play it.
Yeah, so I think he did actually have. I got to agree with chat there. So I think he did have Rexes. Like I mentioned, he is playing 3 Rex and 1 Captain Farron. And
well, if he had Rex, then he didn't lose there, because he could have just played a 7/4 and blocked.
Oh, if he just summoned the but he might have just been tilted and been like, I'm not getting anything. Just forget it. I'm gonna surrender. Like, because when you have 2 Riptides, let's say, I imagine it's probably 2 Riptides, and you're just not able to proc them at all the entire game, or not the entire game, but 1 turn 8 hits. And you miss 2 Allegiances, you're done. Just bye-bye. And honestly, we can see there, if that is the case, that is the impact of the Yordle Grifter nerf. Like, not getting those warning shots is actually super impactful to that deck having lost that game right there.
And that feels so bad. Ghosterdriver played by the rules, only kept 6 Noxus cards in the deck. Theoretically, should have hit at least one of those Allegiances. The chances of missing both of them, very poor, but unfortunately, Ghosterdriver made his namesake on the Allegiance decks and now apparently will die by it here, at least in the top 32. Will have a second chance a little bit later on, as it'll only bump him down to the loser's bracket, but still has a chance at actually pulling it out against Len's Kid Cudi deck, this Day and Night Diana, Leona, and a pretty slow hand on the side of Len, but with the curve of the deck being so low, these higher cost openers don't feel as bad, because you know you're going to probably draw into a lower curve anyway and still be fine.
We see the Duskbringer getting the Dusk Petal Dust. The tongue twister of a card, followed by the Unspeakable Horror here. So just going to push through the 2 damage with the Duskbringer onto Ghosterdriver here. I mean, I feel like Ghosterdriver usually has the advantage in this matchup. There's really no over-the-top for this Diana Leona deck, or there is a little bit, but it's not more, I think, than what this Twisted Fate Gangplank is going to be able to do with something like a Riptide Rex.
I guess the best way to put it is, looking at this deck out of Len, what would you say this has a good matchup against?
What would I say the Kid Cudi deck has a good matchup against?
Yeah, like if you were a Len, what would you, I mean, from a commentator's perspective, looking at this Kid Cudi deck, what do you want to take this into?
This is a really awkward deck, I'm not gonna lie.
That's kind of where I'm sitting on it as well.
It's like, is it aggro or is it mid-range? I'm leaning more towards a mid-range type deck.
But it craps out so low for a Legends of Runeterra mid-range
deck. No, I agree. I have to, like, Leona just seems so underwhelming of a champion for what she does, and I don't know. Maybe that's it, though. Maybe it's kind of like why Yasuo has been bad for so long. Same deal. Like, once he gets online, he feels good. He's a little bit harder to work around than Leona, so maybe Leona's just like the easier choice for a deck like that. But I got to agree, it definitely is awkward. This probably has a good matchup against aggro, though. I feel like this in general,
almost certainly.
Yeah, this in general is almost always going to beat out aggro, if only just because of how many stuns there are.
It is a little bit strange. It doesn't have nearly as much healing as we typically see in a Targon deck. No guiding touches, Pale Cascade only. Of course, no star. Well, there is 3-star shaping. Someone was running 1-star shaping. I thought it was Len, but I guess not.
No, it was really weird when I saw that. I remember what deck you're talking about. I also forget who it was. But thank you, somebody in chat. Glad somebody's getting the Kid Cudi reference. Glad somebody got it.
This is, once again, I feel like Len's lineup is a lot of chip damage. going in for some bigger turns. And I don't feel like
All
that
right.
plays out super well in the matchup. Yeah, you got baited
Yeah.
by the delay on the Runeterra, right?
Yep, same problem you had yesterday. I was like, no way this dude just missed 3 allegiances. Like, God rest his soul. But nope, he's good. Oh, man. So we'll see what Len decides to do next here. Does have Nightfall online. I imagine we're not going to see the Diana here because we're going into his opponent's attack turn. Would seem pretty bad. Doesn't really have an optimal play as far as mana is concerned. Excuse me. So yeah, this kind of makes sense to just pass back over to Ghosterdriver.
I mean, Len has not done a great job of really putting down the pressure. Now, I mean, this is as big as Len's deck gets, aside from, you know, any Celestials that he does invoke. Ravoon is the top end. That is the only 5-drop in the deck. There's only 2 copies of it. He seems to have been pretty fortunate in constantly finding that card on curve, and it does, you know, add a lot of power to the deck. So I'm very surprised to see, you know, only 2 of it. Because generally, like, if you're cutting down on your top end, it's like, oh, I don't want to clunk up on these, but 5 is not an expensive top end.
Yeah, and we have, with the attack token on the side of Ghosterdriver, I'm curious to see if Len does decide to play the Leona here to kind of just mitigate this attack. It seems okay being able to stun out the Yordle Grifter. So we'll see. It looks like he is hovering it, considering it. Ravoon also is decent just because it's such a big body that, you know, Ghosterdriver isn't really going to be able to attack with much, but being on 5 mana still, Ghosterdriver could have a lot of options still available.
Is Pix +1/+2 or +2/+1?
+2/+1.
Okay. So anything that attacks will be able to trade with the Leona.
Yes, yeah, it looks like it. If the Leona blocks, yeah. So I always want to say that Pix lends quick attack too, but I always confuse it with what's the elusive one?
The elusive.
Oh, Witch.
Oh, Young
Yeah,
Witch.
I always confuse its effect with Witch because they're both like these tiny little units with support effects. But the Lunari Priestess comes out on the side of Ghosterdriver. Curious to see, you know, how impactful this Celestial card will be later in the game. This could be a higher costing one. So if Ghosterdriver, I'm really hoping Ghosterdriver got a little bit of the better end of the RNG stick for that one than he's been getting. So maybe, it evens out, right?
Yeah, I guess. So this is one of the problems that I have with Len's deck is you don't seem to have any big impactful cards of your own. And then if you do run into something like the Nap deck that Ghosterdriver has brought, granted it's fallen off in popularity since the Ezreal nerf first off is, you know, Ezreal Twisted Fate was sort of the premier Nab deck, and just Nab in general due to the Yordle Grifter nerf. When you're playing a pretty low-to-the-ground, mid-range style deck, and then your opponent can steal Invoke cards from you, you don't have a lot of answers to the Celestials that are going to be coming out of them, and you don't get to prey on the weak Targon early game because this isn't a Targon deck.
Yeah, it looks like Len is just going to go ahead and set up all these blocks. Gonna kill the Pix, which, I mean, I guess Pix is getting its usefulness. We're gonna see the Unspeakable Horror come out, it looks like, instead of the Leona blocking. So preserving a little bit more health on the Leona. I do like this. I mean, being that this deck kind of is pillared around this whole day and night strategy, I do think you do want to keep Leona on the field to start setting up those multiple stun turns, starting to swarm the board a little bit and start to become a little bit more aggressive heading into turn 6 here.
Okay, so Death's Hand to protect the Pix, actually, and that is the only copy of Death's Hand in Ghosterdriver's deck. As I had mentioned, it kind of looks like a TF Swain deck if you just cut every Noxus card down to a 1/0.
Same thing.
Yeah. And the Ravenous Flocks that he has packed 2 of will actually get a decent amount of value in this matchup. Those high health units on the side of Len, and I think that's why he pulled back the block on the Leona, because he didn't want to just lose it to a Ravenous Flock, because unlike a lot of Targon decks, Len is not running any copies of Guiding Touch. It is only Pale Cascade for his 2-mana cantrip, is not going to have the capabilities to heal up his units outside of the block range unless he uses a Star Shaping, which he does not currently have a copy of. There is also a Noxian Guillotine on the side of Ghosterdriver, so you have to play a little careful with your healthier units.
I'm going to ban that word from your vocab.
Which one?
Cantrip. I'm banning it.
Why?
You're not allowed to use that.
It's accurate.
I know, but oh my god, you just hate that card. I don't understand. What's your problem with people wanting to draw more cards, man?
The fact that they're spending mana to do it.
I mean, wait, what? Well, you spend mana to do everything.
Exactly. Like in Yu-Gi-Oh, cantrips are good because, you know, they don't cost mana. In Magic, cantrips are good because you have to draw lands sometimes and you got to get those out of the way. In any other card game, I'm not a fan of it. The spell mana system does make me like it a little bit more, but
Don't get me started on how you don't have to spend mana on anything in Yu-Gi-Oh, okay? That's a long
I'm just saying,
discussion.
draw one in Yu-Gi-Oh is strictly better than draw one in any other game because it doesn't cost you
Yeah.
anything. You just get to do it.
So it looks like the Petty Officer is going to be blocking out this Stygian Onlooker here. Stygian Onlooker, I got to say, since its release, has been much more impactful throughout this meta than I originally thought it would be.
Really, I thought that card was not good. Everybody seemed to be of the opinion that that card was not good, and all of us seem to have been right.
All right. Listen, it comes up a lot where that 4 attack is actually impactful, whether it be damage or being able to block or force out a block. So, I don't know. I think I've just seen it more than I expect. I thought I wouldn't see it at all, and it's definitely popped up in a few games.
I don't think it's...
I've seen it in some
I guess
of the
best way to
Nightfall
put it
aggros.
is... Yeah, it's still in the Nightfall aggros because it's an aggro deck, and sometimes you do just get the dream scenario where your opponent is playing like a ramp deck and passes the first couple of turns, and you get a big Stygian Onlooker turn. But I mean, it's no Jagged Butcher. Let's be honest.
Oh no,
here.
as far as
It's no Solari Soldier.
yeah, no, as far as a 1-drop is concerned, it's pretty trash.
And that was my concern with the card, is that it came out in the same set as Solari Soldier.
Yeah.
Sort of meaning that, you know, there is a 1-drop in the set that will contest you, and there's nothing you can do about that.
Yeah, and it looks like we had the... Was that the meteor that just came down?
Yeah,
Okay.
that was a meteor shower.
Okay, cool.
So the invoked Celestial has been played. No more of those in Ghosterdriver's hand. Of not the highest impact one he could have gotten, but I mean, does get the Ravoon off the field.
It was okay. You know, he definitely could have pulled some worse Celestial cards, so
It's not bad.
we'll see. Yep, looks like the Shield Bearer is going to come out here, which will go ahead and level up the Leona. So now this deck is getting online a little bit. We'll see if Len can start to put together a turn or two where the stuns start to come out and he can just go wide and attack with some of these units and get Diana on the board.
I was surprised not to see the Invoke Celestial, the Solari Priestess, actually. It still leaves you Comet mana.
Mm-hmm.
It still leaves you double Hush mana.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't really know what you're setting up to block here with the Shield Bearer, because, I mean, usually that's why you want to play it on your opponent's attack turn, is you're worried about something fearsome attacking or just, you know, eating up some damage from a larger unit attacking. But obviously we see these elusives here. Nobody's... Okay, unless if he's thinking about hushing both of them, I guess this sets up...
But I mean, your opponent didn't have you didn't know that your opponent had the second Spray Fed, so it is going to work out for a double Hush block, but I don't necessarily know if that's what Len was going for.
Yeah, and this doesn't even feel that great, too. I mean, now
There's not a lot of use for Hush in this matchup.
No, I agree. It just feels kind of bad. I mean, you're using 6 mana to essentially get rid of 2 cards that already replaced themselves, and they're now sinking damage into the shield. Well, the Shield Bearer won't matter, but into the Leona specifically. There could be a Ravenous Flock. There it is. So, like, now your Leona is gone. This just feels really bad on the side of Len.
He does still have a Celestial Generator, but this is what we were talking about earlier, right? It doesn't feel like Len has a lot of sort of win conditions in the deck outside of the Celestials, and that does mean your opponent is going to have a lot of time to play the game and set up their own strategy. And when you're playing a board-centric deck like Len is that doesn't maintain cards, you know, super well, Riptide Rex can just completely blow your strategy out of the water.
Okay, wait. Well, let's talk about that. What is the win condition? Like, I
think it's a big Morning Light turn. It's sort of like if you're building out the deck, you're like, that's what we're kind of going for. That's the dream scenario. That's what a lot of my wins are going to look like. And you can either do that with the Morning Light or with 2 Leonas.
Okay, so that's where my mind gravitates to. But there's only 1 copy of Morning Light. And I understand you can get the champion spell, but that is not...
You do also have the Celestials, but... And I would say more often than not, it probably is the Celestials. And I've called it an inconsistent win condition, and I think that's one of the reasons he was X and 2 coming into Top Cut. It does still work out more often than it doesn't, but it does feel a little bit weird. Maybe this is like the best Celestial deck against aggros, and then you still do sometimes high roll your Celestials enough to beat the other things like A-Soul decks. Like, all it takes is 1 Great Beyond coming down on curve, and there's not much a lot of decks can do to handle that.
So it's kind of what I was thinking earlier, is like the only reason to bring this deck into your lineup is specifically what you just mentioned, is just aggro. Because I do see this like pretty reliably beating aggro, like all the time. especially with 3 star shaping in there and 2 unspeakable horror. So there's a lot of ways for it to mitigate aggressive stuff. But yeah, this just, I don't know, man. I'm not crazy about this deck. We'll see if he's able to make some sort of comeback here. We do see the Diana finally coming down on his attack turn as well. So the Diana might be able to get a little bit of value trading with something like this Yordle Grifter here. Or even...
Okay, what if the win con is more high roll? What if the win con is Unspeakable Horror into Cygnus the Moonstock?
Oh, then that's just 10-headed and this deck's amazing. I don't like it. Sure, you know what? If that's what you're going for, great, man. I mean, how many Nightfalls can that grab? What's your percentage chance? Like 1 in 6 or something like that? 1 in 5?
Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, it's been like 100% for me. And if you get even, let's be honest, even if you get the Dusk Rider, maybe that's why we actually play all the Nightfall cards. It's to feed the Dusk Rider that we're going to get off the Unspeakable Horror.
So good. Best card in the game.
Is that how you really feel? Everybody write that down. Clip it.
Such a good card. Oh, my God. So we'll see Unspeakable Horror. It seems like such a juicy target to kill the picks, but it also like doesn't, because you think to yourself, I could just block this any turn.
That's what you think, but how long has this Pix been on field? I think it came out on curve with that Petty Officer turn 3 or turn 4 at the latest is when we saw this came down. And Ghosterdriver's just not going for it. Even when he had the 2 elusives, he didn't go for it.
Yeah, so we finally see the Pix meet its end, unfortunately. We'll see what Ghosterdriver opens up with. This is not good. This is exactly what Len was worried about, is good old
and you can see the horror on his face.
That might just about wrap this game up, folks. Ooh. That's going to be really hard for Len to come back from after this. Like, decimates his field.
He does still have the 2 Solari Priestess. He's going to be able to get some Celestials. The sort of awkward part is that I think you want to Comet this Riptide Rex. And if you play your Comet first, then you can't get a Celestial this turn. If you play your Celestial first, then you're sort of playing a little card inefficiently because you are going to block the Riptide Rex with it and then play the Comet after the fact. But maybe we're just saving Comet for Gangplank. Rex is only at 4 HP. That's a little bit easier to deal with.
Yeah, and Rex and good old Yordle Grifter are going to go in for the attack here. We'll see. Yeah, I mean, this Golden Sister's so good at just kind of buying time. It will get some resources out from the side of Ghosterdriver too, because he probably will need to deal with that elusive unit being at 10 health. So we'll see. I just saw the look on your face too.
Yeah, he was contemplating the Pale Cascade, I believe, probably into the Crescent Guardian, but I do much prefer sort of just blocking the Riptide and then getting down the Golden Sister this turn.
Yeah. And
it looks like he's contemplating. I mean, it's scary. When the first Riptide comes down and you lose your board, that's kind of heartbreaking, and you think, that's okay, I can build another board. And then when Riptide comes down again, you sort of lose all hope. And it looks like Len is contemplating the implications of a second Riptide Rex if he does throw down these sisters here, because taking the 6 damage to the face is nowhere near as impactful as losing cards.
Yeah, and we have both Golden Sisters, the Golden and the Silver Sister going in. Does their picture connect?
Not. I mean, I think they are the same picture, just kind of zoomed in on 2 different aspects, kind of like Grizzled Ranger and Badger Bear.
Yeah, so like if there was no separation of the cards in the middle, it would just form one picture. Okay, that's pretty cool. I like the art in this game. Always cool.
Yeah, I like it when they do stuff like that.
So we'll see. We'll see if this Falling Comet can ever get value too. I don't imagine we want to be using it on the Riptide, but what else? I guess we save it for something like a Farron hitting the board. Although if Farron hits the board, that might just be game over.
Gangplank's pretty scary too.
Gangplank, yep. And that's probably just about it. So I imagine we're going to hold on to that for a little bit longer here. I'm going to go with the Traveler. Written in the Stars seems okay, but because what do you get this is my you get a Leona.
If you get a Diana, if you get a Diana, that's actually pretty bad for you. I
think. Yeah, and Leona, even if you get a Leona, it feels better. But what, no. No, I don't understand this deck. I can't. This
I do want to touch real quick on Ghosterdriver seemingly actually high rolling here and getting the Challenger Poro, just going to be able to pull something to the side and let the Riptide get a big attack off.
Did you All right, you just said high roll a Poro?
Look, it's the same concept as just sort of getting down the Flame Chompers.
No, I'm cool with it. It got you to say high roll a Poro, so I'm A-okay with that. I knew one day you'd admit that Poros were OP. I knew it.
Oh, man. Looks like we're going to go Crescent Guardian over the Traveler, actually. A little strange to me. Maybe we're valuing the health on the Traveler for a little bit later. I would imagine that whatever came down this turn was going to just block the Riptide Rex.
Yeah, and swinging back over to Ghosterdriver here. We get the Mountain Scryer on the side of Len, too. So a lot more Celestials gonna come out from the side.
Oh, no.
Oh. Wow, okay, completely misses the Crescent Guardian.
You'll love to see it.
Yeah, wow, okay. So a little RNG assistance for Len there, but will take a little bit more damage to the face, though. Looks like 3-4 to be exact, so we'll see if that's going to come into play here, because Ghosterdriver will be able to go in for a pretty big attack. We'll obviously see the Traveler come out to suck up a little bit of damage, but this is going to be rough for Len. I really think ever since that first Riptide hit the field, it was just really an uphill battle for Len, and we're seeing that kind of come to fruition right now.
I don't think there's any way for Len to avoid taking 10 damage this turn. Whether you play the blocker or comment one of the Riptides, a Riptide and a Petty Officer are going to get through this turn, and that's why we said he high rolled a 4-0.
And I mean, now are you at the point in the game where you're just
like, you don't take that Crescent Strike and hope.
Yeah, I know. and I feel like Falling Comet is just too slow at this point. So
no, you could get another Comet off Living Legends.
Where's Aurelion Soul when you need him?
Not in your deck for some reason.
This should have just been Lux Aurelion Soul. what the heck? Oh, this.
But then he can't play Lulu.
Yeah. Actually, that's a good point. So hopefully that wasn't what was banned. So we'll actually get to see this Lulu deck.
It was.
It wasn't.
It was. We already saw him win with Twisted Fate.
Oh, that's right. So okay. Oh, that's unfortunate. See, and it's weird. Like, I think most people. I was talking about this earlier. I feel like the ban idea for most people is if it's a deck that I don't play a lot or I don't know how the heck it works, I'm just going to ban it. And I feel like that's why we see something like Lulu banned when it's really not, it hasn't seen a lot of success.
Yeah. So Ghosterdriver, I mean, he's got lethal here, right? Like, there's a lot of things in a nab deck that'll push 1 extra damage. Make It Rain, Warning Shot, even the Noxian Fervor that he's playing.
Yeah, I got to agree. I think this is just about game over here. We'll see what Ghosterdriver does have to go ahead and finish this out. I don't think we've seen a single Noxian Fervor come out this entire game, right?
Well, there's only 1 in the deck.
Oh, there's only... Really?
Yeah, 1 Fervor, 1 Death Sand, a couple of Flocks, 1 Guillotine, and a Captain Farron. Trying to keep it light and breezy at only 6 Noxus cards. Unfortunately, not paying off for him in game number 1. Still missed 2 Allegiance triggers. And now it looks like Len is going to miss his chance at winning game number 2. Kind of contemplating which Celestial he wants to die with in his hand.
Well, when you put it like that, geez.
Crescent Strike does give him the best chance at victory, I feel. I mean, your opponent is only at 6, and while you don't have a lot of over-the-top damage, it's okay, Ravenous Lockdown on the Traveler. I thought it was a lethal card. I thought it was going to be like, Make It Rain or something. Had me spooked there for a second.
No, but yeah, Crescent Strike might be able to give Len a good shot at lethal. He also has the Comet to remove something, so he can develop. And if Ghosterdriver develops again, he will have the Comet and the Crescent Strike to basically nullify the entire field on the side of Ghosterdriver. So Len just needs a 4-attack unit. Oh, no, there it is. There it is.
Oh, okay.
It's
okay.
happened.
Never
it's
mind.
happening. It's happening. It just took a couple more turns.
Anything you can even draw to kill this Petty Officer in response?
No.
Another Pale Cascade? No, I was trying to figure out how Len could cobble together lethal, and it was probably something like Crescent Strike into Pale Cascade into Living Legends, and then Living Legends probably just finds you a Great Beyond anyway, and you just slam that down, kill your opponent, but is not going to be able to pick this up. But we are going to get a game number 3. Let's see what Ghosterdriver has for his last deck.
Yeah, excited to go to game 3 here, and just quick update for anybody chilling with us today on the top 32 and what's been going on. So we do have Humble Opinion continuing his streak, beating Type V there, now playing Sorry, who beat Methodical in the top 32. Let's see, I'm So Humble, another Humble, also beat Rogio to advance. 511 beat Kukin to advance. Looks like El Mag did beat Utono Dorado. Vig beat Colby M, and Kiastick beat Ace. So Ace going down to the losers bracket. Kiastick going to advance and play Vig. Insulinato and Guardia are still playing. Gamog beat Cephalopod. So Gamog going to go ahead and advance there. Sharkgui did beat X-Ratter and is advancing. And Pinex beating Wolf are going to go ahead and advance. And we already have some losers bracket games starting as well. So that's kind of where we're at right now in the top 32.
Did we double Caster Curse Cephalopod, or does it cancel out because we both picked it? It cancels out, right? This isn't our fault.
I think it cancels out.
Okay.
I think it cancels out. We need an even number of casters to call somebody winning.
So to your point earlier about players just kind of banning what they don't play against too often because Len's Lulu Shen was banned here, Len also banned the Zombie Ash on the side of Ghosterdriver, a much lesser seen deck, electing to go up against the Aurelion Sol Lux, which is one of the more popular decks in the format.
Yeah, Aurelion Sol Lux, been seeing a lot of it today, alongside obviously the TF Swain, so we'll see how this fares against something like that. I mean, this does seem like, on the side of Len, if we are going with the idea of, okay, Morning Light for like a big one-turn swing is kind of the strategy for this deck, it's possible that happens before Aurelion Sol gets online, but if we see something like a turn 8 Mind Splitter, I don't know if we ever get to that point. So there's no Mind Splitter in this deck.
Yeah, there's no Mind Splitter in Lux Aesol. That would be absurd.
Oh, why am I... okay, yeah, never mind. Yep. Wrong deck. I've been seeing Mind Splitters too many times today and yesterday.
So I wonder if this is the matchup that Len was actually going for. Based on the fact that he made it to the top 32, as well as, leaving the Lux Aesol open, makes me think that maybe this Cuddy deck is supposed to beat the Lux Aesol. It has a really weak early game, unless you're throwing down the Solaris, which even then are more of a stall tactic than an actual way to fight for the board. I mean, if this high rolls a Radiant Guardian, then okay, never mind. Does hit a Screeching Dragon. I was like, if this is a Radiant Guardian, never mind, throw it out the window. The game's just over. Len loses. Go home. Down to the losers bracket, but it's just going to be a Screeching Dragon, and that's manageable for Len, who is doing a pretty good job at pushing through a fair amount of damage, and the Lux Aesol deck is so slow to start. It feels like the deck doesn't turn on until turn 5.
Yeah, this Hush draw early on, too, might benefit Len if we do eventually get a Radiant Guardian to come out. This Hush can shut that down and have something like Ravoon trade with it without it getting the effect off. Ravoon would have to get some sort of buff with a Pale Cascade, though, to trade with that tough stat. So looks like we are just going to see the Solari Soldier eaten up by the dragon, unfortunately. But Lux will... Or not Lux, Leona will probably hit the field. I mean, it feels bad using the stun on this turn, but I think you just kind of have to play it for tempo.
I think this is a pretty... I guess the best way to put it is Len didn't want to go first like he did. He wanted to go second. With the way that the turns have lined up, like now he's getting an off-turn Leona stun. If you want to open attack, something is dying to the dragon, or you Pale Cascade your Leona, you're going to get Ravoon down on sort of the attack turn, and generally I'd like to play him more on my off-turn. And the tempo just isn't in Len's favor, and I wonder if he had the attack token second on his even turns, if that would have been a big difference maker in this matchup.
Possibly, yeah. And I feel like that's something that we might not address enough, too. It definitely, certain matchups, I feel, go differently based on where the attack token lies on what turn. And it definitely might have had an impact, so you might be onto something there. But we will see what Ghosterdriver gets with Solari Priestess here with the Celestial cards, and if it will make an impact in the next couple of turns. Already down to 12. If Len is able to go in for a big swing here, we might be in pretty good spot, but I don't know. I mean, having that dragon on board on the side of Ghosterdriver does shut off a lot of Len's attack right now.
So something that happens a lot in physical card games that I haven't seen any digital card game do is when you're going into top cut, generally the advantages of being a higher seed, for example, if you are XO, is that you're going to play the lowest seeded person in top cut. But the other advantage is that generally you get to pick if you go first or second, and that is the advantage you get for being a higher seed. In every digital card game that I've seen, whoever goes first or second is randomized, and there's no way to pick it.
Yeah, that is very interesting, actually. It's always been like that. Hearthstone, Shadowverse, Legends of Runeterra.
I know that people have said that, like, oh, there's, like, if you challenge me, then you go first or something like that. But I haven't actually seen any, like, hard evidence because we tried to run a tournament where you get to pick and then things
no, it was. I
thought it was a bug. It was wild.
No, originally, I think, I might be incorrect, but I'm pretty sure originally that's how this worked with challenging. When you
I don't know that that's like an intended thing within the game more so than just something that happened.
No, it was just something that happened, but then they fixed it. So they actually made a patch update where they changed that so you could no longer do that. They took that out maybe, patch 1.2? I want to say before Rising Tides came out.
And I like that because then, I mean, if not everybody knew about it, then it did give a weird advantage when someone challenged someone in a tournament, or like the testing that you were doing with your friends wasn't as effective.
Oh yeah, and that's why I think they worked it into the ban phase. You know, when you did Runeterra ban, one person would ban first, and the other person would pick who goes first. So, but then yeah, they patched it. They took that out and made it not a thing anymore. So, but I do like that. I'm glad they took that out. But it looks like Len did decide to go in for the attack with this Pale Cascade as a backup to save the Leona here. Only going to push 3 damage, though, which feels kind of bad. And this feels even worse because now it prevents 2 damage. The Fury buffs up this dragon just enough so that it eats up Leona.
And this is what I was worried about. I mean, looking at Len's deck, it doesn't look like you really get to out-aggro a deck like the Lux Ace. So, you know, we saw a strong early game from him, but at the end of the day, you're just throwing out a lot of 1 or 2 attack units that, sure, they have decent to valuable enter abilities, but they're not actually doing anything once they're on board. They're just representing a pretty poor amount of damage. Your top end is not there, and now we are on turn 6. Ghosterdriver sitting at 11, which honestly sounds pretty healthy to me, considering how much healing is still available to Ghosterdriver. So this is really where we get to see the deck start to turn on, and if a Lux comes down here, how does Len ever answer that?
I think at this point in the game, Len does not answer that. I think this is kind of the turn, turn 6 and 7, where Len starts to need to try to push for the game. You know, if he does use something like a Morning Light, that's kind of what we're looking for right now. But not having a Leona on the field means very low chance that a Morning Light is actually drawn right now. So I don't really know what he's going to be able to do. We see... Oh, wait, what is that Overwhelm unit actually again?
The Scourge?
No. The 6 mana Daybreak. Jesus. Sun.
So I thought that card was really good at first, and then I realized it loses the stats at end of turn.
Yeah, unfortunately.
But what you are looking at right there is
Sun something. I know this.
Sun Guardian.
Hey, there it is. So that actually might be impactful here because that represents a lot of damage the turn that it does come down. So if we are able to do some sort of shenanigan with that, with the Sun Guardian, we might be able to set up lethal, but I don't really know what that involves. I think it still involves something like Morning Light.
Almost certainly. It feels like this is a value deck, but I'm actually struggling to think what it outvalues because it kind of wants to drag the game out for 20 or so turns, and you don't have the late game potential to do something like that. It looks like he is going to fire off that Sun Guardian at the start of next turn, like you said, try to push as much damage as possible. Which actually does make it a little strange to me that he blocked the Grizzled Ranger because now there's 3 more health on a blocker on the side of Ghosterdriver.
Yeah, so an 8-7 with Overwhelm. Trying to think of what Ghosterdriver could possibly do in response. Looks like just going to go ahead and throw the Lux on. I imagine this means it's going to get blocked with the Lux. We'll still take 3 Overwhelm damage, but it feels kind of bad just having that attack kind of eaten up a little bit by this Lux.
I think you are a little afraid to block with your Lux just because of Unspeakable Horror or Hush turning off your barrier. And, you know, if Lux dies immediately, that never feels good. You feel a little safe with the barrier. I mean, we were criticizing players yesterday for being in situations where the barrier could not get popped and still not attacking with the Lux or still not feeling comfortable blocking with it. This is a situation where it's very reasonable to hold it back. And I actually am a little surprised that Len doesn't go in with the Ravoon as well. Maybe just playing around a Pale Cascade onto one of the weaker units.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it looks like he is still debating it. I don't know. I mean, I would like to see everything go in. Oh, sorry. No, he actually did submit it. Okay, never mind. So it looks like we're going to see the Loyal Badger Bear traded for the Sun Guardian. So we'll be able to squeeze a little bit more damage through. But yeah, So again, I think we're back to square one. We are still, at this point, looking for Morning Light or possibly a Leona to really close out this game. And like all these draws, like nothing in Len's hand really closes this out. It doesn't do anything to help him actually be the aggressor. And in this matchup, if you're not the aggressor, you're losing.
So when the Celestials came out and we were all like, wow, these cards are extremely powerful. Why are they so undercosted? And Riot had kind of talked about how they tied the cost of the Celestials into the cards that generate them. So when you're getting like a 10 mana Celestial, maybe it costs you 15 mana because you got it with a Star Shaping. Yep. Len's deck is a deck where you really feel that cost tied into the Celestial, whereas the Aurelian Soul decks really don't. They'll get a Living Legends off of an A-Soul that's leveled, and then all of a sudden they get to dump out 70 mana for nothing. But Len is very much feeling like he's playing 15 mana, and like a 7 mana Traveler is what he's dealing with here.
Yeah, it looks like the Hush will now come out onto the Lux to prevent some of his units dying, and that feels like such a defensive Hush. It does feel a little bit bad to have to play that right now on the Lux, but I don't hate it. You do save some units. You save your Overwhelm unit as well, and yeah, I don't know. We'll see what Celestials he can grab. Cosmic Inspirations probably. I mean, we've literally said this since the beginning of the tournament. It's the best.
I will not shut up about Cosmic Inspiration.
It's the best Celestial card, and if he gets it, I mean, we have 3 units on field as well as more in hand. That would by far and away win him the game. And unfortunately, though, getting the Scourge instead, we'll see if, or is that the Devourer?
That's the
Scourge. So we'll see if that's able to really do anything for him here. I mean, there's pressure on Ghosterdriver. You got to think, though, on the side of Ghosterdriver, like you said, there's heal. I mean, we do see 3 Star Shaping in his deck. We see 2 Guiding Touch. Even though you got him to 7, you got to assume that's probably like 17. Like, that's probably more accurately what his life is represented at right now.
Well, Ghosterdriver only has, 5 cards in hand. How many of them can realistically be Star Shaping? And, I mean, that's the thing about the Lux Ace deck. Is if you put your opponent in a situation like this and, you go in for your attacks and you're like, oh, they took a turn off to Star Shaping, but they're still in more or less the same spot. That's not how the Lux deck operates. When they take a turn off to Star Shaping, they're getting final sparks out of that.
Yeah, and the Shield Bearer doesn't feel that great coming down either. I mean, it's really lacking hand right now as far as what Len's able to do for aggression.
I was a little surprised to see the Scourge taken. I thought there was a chance that he goes for the Trickster and tries to close this one out, but without any additional damage in his hand, I think just setting up for that turn 11 Scourge attack is going to be your best bet. You're still at a pretty healthy life total, so if Ghosterdriver goes for an open attack, you can actually just take all of that damage and then play your Scourge, preserve as much as your board as possible. You do have to be careful on the math on that because you don't want to put yourself in range to die to a Final Spark, but I think we really are kind of all in on this Scourge plan, which is scary when we're against a deck that plays Concerted Strike or even Hush, and we don't have a great answer. Because Len is going to have to take off Ghosterdriver's next attack turn to develop the Scourge so that he doesn't get blown out by a Hush and can go for an open attack.
Yeah, and I don't know if you're ever able to get... Because it costs 10, I don't know if you can ever get Ghoster to really commit any mana to put him outside of the range of being able to remove the Scourge. Like with something like a Concerted Strike, he would actually need at least a Concerted Strike and a single combat, it's going to look like, to remove it at this point. Wow, okay, so the Pale Cascade can also save this Valor here, which hurts a little bit. This leads me to believe he might be going for an open attack, but he does have the Scout attack available to him as well on the side of Ghosterdriver.
Okay, Doombeast's going to be able to push a little bit more damage. I mean, let's live in Magical Christmas Land here for a second. Ghosterdriver has no healing. Ghosterdriver has no healing in hand. Absolutely none. Can Len win this game?
That's Magical Christmas Land. I do we ever live there? I think, yeah, 100%. I think if there's 0 healing, which I don't even... Have we even seen 1 Star Shaping come out from Ghosterdriver? There's no way there's 0 healing. But let's say there's 0 healing. Yeah, he 100% wins this game. I think Scourge is going to win it. I think even just this Sun Guardian has the potential to win it, especially with this Doom Beast that we just drew for 2 extra damage. I don't think it's out of the question for Len to push 5 damage, but the question... Okay, well, maybe... do you pick Destroyer?
I feel like you've already committed to Scourge for the next turn. The Destroyer is like 4 turns off of getting value.
Yeah, but I feel like, I mean, do you need that extra unit that's going to, like, represent a lot of damage, though? Because I don't think removing your... Like, do you start worrying about Aurelion Soul so you get Supernova to obliterate you? Like, I don't know if you even ever worry about that.
Supernova is awkward because the only way that you don't win next turn is if your Scourge gets dealt with, and that means that a Cosmic Rays is not what I thought we were going with, but maybe he tries to fire that off next turn rather than develop the Scourge. I mean, it is going to obliterate a fair amount of Ghosterdriver's board, but now we do see the Star Shaping fired off, so there is the healing. We're now up to 12.
Bye-bye Magical
close
Christmas
to a Final
Land.
Spark. Yeah.
Not anymore. So, and now the question is going to be, like, what does Ghosterdriver get as a Celestial? You know, we've been so concerned as to what Len's going to get here, but now Ghosterdriver could have a response, and on top of that, this Lux train is leaving the station, and probably that is not a good sign for Len. Len is not on board. He's going to get left behind at the station, and it starts with a Final Spark onto the Sun Guardian here.
What is this analogy?
Hey, man, trains and stations and stuff, okay?
Lux left him at the station, but she turned around to fire a laser at his Sun Guardian. Like, oh, actually, you know what? I almost forgot.
Hey, man, all right, it worked in my head, all right? A lot of things work in my head, not necessarily other places.
This is where the Cosmic Rays pickup kind of confuses me. Because you really want to go in for a big attack this turn to try and prevent the ASOL level. Maybe we are just going to go for the Cosmic Rays next turn, just kind of pass here. But then, I mean, Ghosterdriver, if he goes for an open attack, you're probably trading off a fair amount of your board into his lower health units. Maybe this Cosmic Rays is the play. Maybe this is actually going to work out for Len. I can definitely see scenarios where this is the case. He's going to be able to clear out a good amount of the board next turn. I think we might see an open scout attack at the very least to clean up a little bit of what Len has. And then, of course, we had mentioned, you know, Concerted Strike. Even if an ASOL comes down, that is still a little bit scary. But this Scourge could get it done in conjunction with the Cosmic Rays. I guess the sort of problem is that Len's next attack turn, do you play the Cosmic Rays or do you play the Scourge? I think that's where this isn't working out super well for him. Maybe you play the Cosmic Rays now, open with the Scourge, hope that you can get there.
Hey, yo, what is up, Hyped? Thank you, my dude, for the raid. Team Liquid. I'm guessing, unfortunately, that means that Hyped is no longer in the tournament, so...
Wait, would that mean that Hyped fell out of losers bracket as well, or did they like fall out of winners and then just decide to leave? Because Hyped's already in the invitational that we're playing the qualifier.
Well, yeah. But no, Hyped lost to Ranu 2-0 in the winners bracket, and then it looks like he said he was playing Kukin, so either that or he just ended his stream. So it says the game is still going on versus Kukin, so... Oh, yeah, he dropped out losers. Okay, cool. Yeah, and he did also, he's already invited. So this was just his practice. He's practicing.
That's a pretty good practice run. Oh, here we go. Living Legends. This could be a big turn for Ghosterdriver because Living Legends is so good because it gives you... No, that's right. It never gives you a Lux Laser because the spell resolves first, filling your hand, and you do not have room for the Lux.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting. We do finally see the morning light. Took long enough, but we finally see this card, which apparently is the pillar of the win condition of this deck and the one of in the deck. So we'll see if it makes an impact on the next turn.
The soft pass made the Cosmic Rays so appealing, but you don't want to play that when your opponent can still have 10 mana to develop the board. You want to get them to tap out first, have as few units as possible, so that your open Scourge does win the game.
Yeah, and so this is one of my concerns with the Scourge, right? Like, you gotta try to get Ghosterdriver to commit as much mana as possible to get the Scourge to stick, and this might do it. I mean...
Oh, but you need a board for the Scourge to matter.
Yeah, you definitely do, but I don't know. He's at 10. I'm trying to think of how much overwhelm damage Len will actually have.
Keep in mind, the Scourge itself does not have Overwhelm.
Yeah, no, I know. I feel like that's definitely a mistake most people make. Yeah, and it looks like Scourge is not going to be the play now on the side of Len, having most of his stuff removed. Yeah, so now we do have the Cosmic Rays, though, that could be really, really impactful on this turn. Okay, only taking the Scout attack, so not going to be as impactful, getting some use out of that Valor first.
Well, if we see a Radiant Guardian come down as the follow-up, that's sort of the bread and butter Demacia play that I love so much in Lux decks is the Blinding Assault into the Scout attack, into the Radiant Guardian, into the immediate 5 health swing.
Yeah, such a good combo. It didn't pop up until a little bit later in the lifespan of Blinding Assault, but definitely works super good with Radiant Guardian. And we'll see what Ghosterdriver decides to do here if we are going to get the full-on attack. I mean, Len passing back over, too. Really trying to get as much value out of this Cosmic Rays as possible. Are we actually going to see, like... I mean, does Ghosterdriver develop something else that Cosmic Rays is going to get rid of here?
I mean, it's possible that he throws down some mana onto something like a Messenger, but instead the Immortal Fire...
That's a big boy.
That is a big boy, and that actually will block anything that the Scourge comes in with and without taking any damage.
Holy Jesus, yeah. That's...
So by my math, the way things are playing out here, if we do see a Scourge as the opening play from Len... then if we see Cosmic Rays into Scourge, he pushes 8 damage.
Okay. I just still think, I think at this point, like, we're really trying to figure out, like, how does Len win this game? Are we like, grabbing at straws here? Like, is this,
I think there were ways that it worked out. I just don't think we're actually, it was slim. It was definitely not a guaranteed thing. Things had to go pretty right for him. But I think if you're only pushing 8 damage here, that's probably not enough, especially now that Ghosterdriver has a single combat slash concerted strike target to kill the Scourge itself or any other unit.
Yeah, it just is looking, especially like this Lux is still sticking around. And again, we have still only seen one star shaping, right? So at this point, Lux is probably going to get some more final sparks, which means Len's field is just not going to be able to get as wide as he wants to use something like this Morning Light. And even this drawing this Diana right now just feels so underwhelming. Like, what even is that card? It's not going to do anything for Len.
You were really hoping that you were in a situation where your opponent couldn't concerted strike to kill your Scourge, but that Immortal Fire hitting that 10 attack break when even single combat opens up as an option now, and that is going to be the play. Len has no answer for that, and the Immortal Fire is going to stick around because this card is cuckoo bonkers broken. We also get a final spark. Len is losing the board, he is losing the life total, and he will be moving on to the loser's bracket, I would have to assume very shortly here.
So unfortunate to see that on the side of Len. I mean, we followed him a lot during day one on his journey here to the winner's bracket in the top 32, but unfortunately going to fall, it looks like, to Ghosterdriver.
And I think at this point we're in limbo, which is actually a very short limbo for how long they often last, because we just have a 10 attack elusive on the side of Ghosterdriver. And unless Len top decks very specifically a Hush, there is nothing in his deck, and that even just lets him live for the turn. It doesn't win him the game.
Yep, and we see the surrender come out. Wow. All right, so looks like Len gonna get taken down there by Ghosterdriver 2-1. Wow. I still am not sold on that deck. Like, I'm just not sold on it, man. I don't know what to say. All right, so Ghosterdriver gonna move on 2-1 over Len there. Gonna take on LMAG in the next round. LMAG actually defeating Utono Dorado. So again, the losers will go down to the losers bracket, so they are not out of the tournament yet. So see if they can make a comeback down there in the losers bracket. But as always, everybody stay healthy, stay positive. I hope it just works for you, and peace out.